Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's tutorial is going to be a pretty fun one in my opinion, because this is unlike some of the stuff we've already done on the channel. We're going to be making a cat banner. Now the version I have right up on screen right now is a bit too long for my liking, so in demonstration I'm going to start in a few seconds I guess. I'm going to make it a bit shorter, though of course if it still looks too long you can always adjust the size accordingly. As for the cat, I try to keep it simple. I did stick this line pattern on it. You might not want to do that for yourself if you don't like that. It's totally up to you. I just felt like a pattern overlay gave it a bit more detail, but I mean it looks fine as well, just as it is. I'm going to start off by going to File, New, and as usual we'll be doing 1200 by 530. And this is of course much larger than a canvas size that we actually need, but this just provides us extra space as needed. Create a new layer by clicking the plus in the corner, go to background, click delete. We're going to go over to our rounded rectangle tool and we'll drag it down randomly. Now we're going to go over to properties, and if you don't see property, go over to window, go down to properties, click it. It'll pop up right in that corner where my mouse is. You can leave it there or drag it and dock it to the side. So with the properties window now visible, we're going to make a couple adjustments. The width, we're going to make 780, and the heights, make sure this is turned off during the process, otherwise it's going to try to make them both proportionate to each other. And height is going to be at 240. That might still be too long as I mentioned before, but it's shorter than what we did over there and it potentially fit better. We'll see. And we'll be doing 68 pixels as the curved edges. Now let's take this, hold shift when we drag it to center it there, and let's drag it up and center it right about there. Perfect. We'll call this the base. I'm going to do Control G and we'll call this the base area. And the color we actually want to use for the base isn't going to be this pink one. That pink is the one we use for the other aspects of the banner. So this fill color will instead be swapping to this FDC 3E5. So click OK. As you can see, the color is a lot lighter. Now we're going to create a new layer. Come over to this left side and we're going to grab the triangle tool. The fill is going to be exactly the same. It's in recently used color, so we can just click it and it will swap over for us. And we'll just drag this down randomly because once again we're going to come over to each of these and we're going to make it 83 by 74, and this one's going to be 74. Why is it adjusting proportion there? Turn that off. I'm gonna go with 88 by 74. Don't worry about the pixels, or sorry, the decimals at the ends. And we're just gonna drag it to say there, maybe a bit lower. Don't want the ears to be too large. So one there, we'll call this the ear left. Control J, and let's move this to the other side. And it should automatically click right into position. This one's a bit too far. No, this one's not far enough. Alright, perfect. It clicked right into position as to where it should be going. Ear right. Now we're going to take all of these, hold shift, and while you're on the ear right, click all the way down. Control J, Control G. We'll call this the backup, just in case when you revisit these. And we're going to drag this to the very bottom. Now, so each of these, we're going to right click to merge shapes, and now right click, rasterize layer. Reason being is you're going to add a stroke to the entire thing. So right click, blending options, go to stroke, and we'll be adding a 4 pixel stroke in the following color. It looks like I remembered it from last time. So FC7EBF, pause as necessary. Okay, and I don't think I mentioned it again, but I'm using Alt and scrolling with my mouse to move in and out. But if you don't know that hotkey or it's not working for you, you can always go to this left corner. Not sure if you can see that. Actually, you can't see that because my camera is hiding it. Move that there a second. So in this left corner, you're gonna see this right here, and you can adjust the values there to zoom in and out, though it's much quicker to hold Alt and zoom that way. Let's move that camera back. I think that was where it was at. All right, so returning to this, I don't know what happened there. We're gonna take the backup, go to the base, do Control J, drag it out. Now this will be using that bright pink color from before. Go over to your move tool and click with your arrow keys down, right, and just scroll this at a pretty decent speed until it goes out to, say, there. You can always adjust it. This essentially just adds a drop shadow. And I think I've done this in 1 or 2 other banners on this channel, so it should be pretty familiar already to those who are already familiar with my content. And we'll just call this the shadow. Next, we're gonna go back to the backup. I'm gonna take the space copy, do Control J, drag it above, and this one we'll call text. This one, let's make sure we rename it to base. We'll do Control G, and we'll call this the base edits, because this is where we're gonna be adding the bubbles. Whiskers would be somewhere else. We'll add those into its own separate group. Let's go ahead and right click the eyeball and make it orange as well to keep ourselves organized. Now this text layer, we're gonna wanna make it so that it's the following color. Let's pop this open, and we'll be using FFEDF9. So let's click OK there. Now for the, let's unlink that. We want 124 as a height for this, but then as for the width, it's gonna kind of depends on you how far you want to go with it. I probably want to have it go to that distance on each side. I made it cut off way earlier in my earlier copy of this banner, but I want to extend it a bit farther this time because it felt like it cut off a bit too soon before, leaving too much empty space there. So let's uncurve some of this to about there. Let's make sure that is properly, yeah, that's too close because it's almost touching the corner there. Alright, that's perfect. And then we're going to be adding a stroke to this as well by right clicking, going to blending options, stroke, and we're just going to bring this down to 2 pixels instead of 4. I put 1, 2. Alright, now we can collapse that for the time being, collapse this, create a new layer, do Control G, and we'll call this the cat features. First one we're going to start with is pretty obvious, just get the eyes laid out, because once the eyes are down, it'll give us a feel for where the rest of the parts of the cat are going to go. So Control G, let's call this the eyes. And the eyes are going to make them completely black and about 25 pixels in size each. Let's make this at 25 by 25. Now, if you're a bit more familiar with how to edit faces, I suppose you can cut off part of it to make it look like the cat's sleepy or one eye open, one eye closed. I don't have much experience in that field, so we're just going to be doing a completely open eye, but of course you can adjust it as would fit better for you. So this lined up pretty well there. Let's call this the left. I'm gonna do Control J, right click, call this the right. Sorry, double click. Now we'll drag this to the other side, and it's gonna click right into position. The eyes are now in place. Let's close that, create a new layer, Control G, and we'll call this the nose. Now this is a bit more complicated and probably the most complex aspect of this banner. We're gonna go over to the pen tool. Let's start with this over here so we get a feel for the sizing. We'll click at about here, click at about there, and we'll drag it up like so. So we want it really straight at the ends. Oops. My mouse has been having issues. I'm not sure why it cut off there. But we want it really straight at the ends and keep on holding down when you click. And then curves on the edges. So I'm just holding my left mouse button, moving around to get these effects. So probably like that. And this might be too large. If it is, I'm gonna pause and go back and edit it. But this is an idea of how it should work. Now we're gonna create a shape from this by clicking shape. As you can notice, that is way too thick for our purposes. So we're gonna right click and rasterize layer. That gets rid of the shape aspect of it, and now we can easily edit it. Now stay on the pen tool, click on this corner, or the first corner and the last corner, and then curve this around until it's about there, cutting off a large portion of this piece sticking out. Hold Alt to drag that right corner in. It's just a good habit that you can develop, because otherwise if you leave it all the way out, it starts curving each aspect of your pen tool. And it's better just bring it back to the center. Now click all the way around, right click, and then make selection, click OK, then click delete. Then right click when you're on the rectangular marquee tool and click deselect. That might still be too thick. So let's go back to this and do it one more time, cutting off just a tad more. For such a simple video, it ended up being a lot longer than I was anticipating. Make selection, OK, click delete, marquee tool, right click, deselect, Ctrl J, Ctrl T, go to the width, add a negative, click the check mark, go to the move tool, hold shift as you drag, do not do it diagonally, and then make sure it lines up like that. Okay, so that was a bit better than what we had before, I think. It's not perfect, that's for sure, but the cat, I think, looks a little happier than it did in this version over here. So let's go make sure this is centered, 180 on each side. That is perfect. Let's collapse this. Now we can create the whiskers, and the whiskers is going to be very, very similar as to how we did the nose. We're going to be using the pen tool, and we're just going to drag it out. Let's create a new layer, group that, so we'll call this the whiskers. Oh, and when you return to the ears before I forget. So we're going to stay on the whiskers real quick, then go finish off the ears. Now the whiskers, we want them to start at about here. So between here and the curve at about this center area. So we'll click there, and we want to bring it out and give it a slight curve. So I would say like that. I wouldn't go too far out because then the size of your banner is increasing and all the quality. I can't even speak properly today. All of the fine details in the center of the banner are going to be hard to see because the banner is now shrunk, and the scores are going to make everything smaller because it's much wider than the base of it is. Hope that made sense. Now we're going to click shape again and right click, rasterize layer, go back to our pen tool. Then we're going to curve this around to make our whisker. Let's go all the way around, make selection, click OK, click delete. Alright, and that's looking pretty decent. So let's go to the marquee tool, right click, deselect, then right click, blending options, color overlay, and let's make it this color, EF859C. I was not anticipating this would take so long. I was expecting this to be a 10-minute banner, and we're already at 16 minutes. Wowza. Alright, so right click, rasterize layer style. That's our first whisker. I guess really you could have made it a bit longer. We can cheat a bit. Now I'd be careful about cheating like this because it's going to lower the quality a bit, but I wanted the whisker to be a bit farther in. That's the first whisker, Ctrl J, Ctrl T. Let's bring this down and then just rotate it, and this will be our second whisker. That's the left whisker done. So Control G, let's call this left. Control J, double click right. Control T, go to the width. Add a negative, click the check mark, and drag that all the way across. Let's see, how far do we have it in? Is it gonna remember for us? Oh, it remembered for us. So perfect, the whiskers are done. Now on to the flushed cheeks. I almost forgot the ears. Okay, I promise, we'll finish the ears after the cheeks. So let's collapse this, go back to the base area, open base edits. Yeah, create a new layer, do Control G, we'll call this the cheeks. And then the color we're going to use for these is FAB 2DB. Click OK, Ellipse tool, drag that out to there. That looks pretty good. And so we'll put one, not quite at the center, we'll do it one tick off. So we'll put one there, and even move it up a tad, I suppose. And then we'll do Control J. We'll call this left, just so if we want to make edits in the future, it's easy to see what's what. Then right to that center, and we want one tick off the center. And that's one tick, and that's evened out. Collapse that, collapse that. Let's go finish off the ears, Control G. Let's call this the ears. Now we're gonna go back to the ears we had in here, do Control J. Let's bring that out. And the color we're going to use for the ears for here is going to be that same pink color we were using as the border and the shadow. So bring that color in. Now we're going to drag this down until it is nice and snug in there. And I think this is the one I wanted at 38 by 34. 38 by 34. You know what? I'll just do it myself. This thing does not want to cooperate with me today. So let's move it about there. And you can track the sizing on the right side. For some reason, Photoshop is being stubborn with me today, and it's not sizing it quite how I wanted it to. So we're stuck with this. It's not quite even. Still not quite there. Come on. Alright, that works. I want it to go a bit higher up, but I feel like it's going to be stubborn with me. Stop it. I just want to increase the height. Leave me alone. Alright, that is just a little too thick still. Let's bring it back in. The curve, that's fine. We'll just leave that as. So this is the right, and then we'll call this one the left, of course. Right click on the eyeball, make sure it's all red because it copied the orange before. Let's just drag that across and drop it right there. Cool, ears are done. Now on to the last few steps. Open up base edits, create a new layer, do Control G, and this one we're going to call the white dots. In this one, I don't really see a need for myself to record the entire process. Essentially, all that you're going to do is take these dots, draw one right here, and copy a few at this size around. So don't worry about naming it. There's going to be so many of them. It's not even worth the time to go through that hassle. So we can put one right here, say put one right there, maybe put one right here, and then put another one right there. No, that's too big. One right here. Now do Control J, Control T, make an even smaller one. This one we can put one right here, one right there, one, oh, that is not what I wanted. Did it go back to auto select on me, or was that me misclicking something? I don't even know sometimes. Alright, so Control J, and just put a bunch of these all over the place. But yeah, you get the idea. So that would really, no, there's still a text left. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Alright, so one last layer. We're gonna create a new layer, do Control G, and this is gonna be the text. Right click on the eyeball. Let's make this green, and we're using the supplementary Comic NC. I think that's how you say it. And we'll just put rules in here. Pretty simple. I always use rules. And then just center that, and because we made this wider, we have a bit more space. And if you're finding your characters are a bit too spaced out, if you go to this right here in properties, VA, you can adjust that as you so desire. So I'm moving down to 200, and that is a bit nicer. Now, to actually save it, highlight over the entire thing, edit, copy merged, file, new, create, Control V, delete the backgrounds, file, export, save for web, or file, save as, and then choose PNG. If you want to add the patterns, you can always find so many patterns from online for lines and such. I'll include one for you to download. And to actually add the pattern, you'd right click, go to blending options, pattern overlay, and adjust the settings in here to overlay, change the opacity, change the scale as you see fit. Thanks so much for watching. I don't know how this got so long. I think I'm just a bit tired. Had classes all day. But yeah, I hope you all have an awesome day.